stupid things.
Listen, whatever you're doing now, just do that because the sound is just fine.
We're gonna do that.
Yeah,
I don't know how to use those. I told Phil because he knows it's going to be me. Guaranteed, I'm going to be the problem child for sure. I charged them. I put them in. Make sure the green light comes on. All those things. This morning, when I thought, man, I'm going to try them just to make sure. I put it in. It ringed in my ears. I think I might have got this. No, back to normal.
Oh, this is the beauty of virtual, right? No matter how much we plan, it's like live TV. You have a plan, and then technology has a different one.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Exactly. But at least the camera's working, which you motivated us, by the way. So the last time you were on, Phil goes, when we hung up, he goes, "Did you see how clear he was?"
Yeah.
That I know he's probably got a better camera. So Phil goes out and buys cameras for me and him. So I'm at La Grota today. I'm at the warehouse.
This is Chris, boys. Are you using the Canon M50?
No. I bought Anchor actually. I bought Anchor web conference cameras.
Oh man, these look great.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Oh no, I couldn't. I was looking at the Canons, but I thought I can't. Like, I gave Kenny, the Anchor, and he was like, "I'll plug stuff in," and I was like, so I thought if I give him a Canon, it's.
Does the Anchor? Some of these fancy cameras, they follow you when you move. Does the Anchor follow you? Do you get that?
It does to an extent. So like if I go all the way over, it won't. But if I move around a little, it'll kind of. It's got a delta. I don't know. It's got like a 20 centimeter, 30 centimeter delta or something like that.
Really?
So, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. See, I didn't want to tell him that because now he's going to do that all.
Well, not because I'd be thinking like, what? I'm just going to weep and wobble. It'd be like when we had the kids again, right? I mean, in the line in the checkout.
No. How's your summer going?
It's been pretty incredible. Thanks for asking. It's been a mixture of work and some good family travel, and I think about like food quality. Oh my God, we were in Italy for 2 weeks, and I am amazed, and I underestimated like the freshness of the ingredients. Like, I don't drink, right? So I didn't do the wine. But I don't even eat a lot of pasta on the regular. But people are like, man, you're going there. You got to eat the pasta. You got to eat the pizza. And I said to my wife, I'm like, all right, let's do a weigh-in before and after. And then when I got back, I weighed in on 2 different scales. And I'm like, hey, babe, I think the scale's broken. And she's like, why? I'm like, because it's saying I'm 5 pounds less. And she's like, what?
That's awesome.
That's the European diet. That's the Mediterranean diet. See?
The quality of the food, I was blown away because I felt like I was eating too much when I was there because it just tasted so good. Yeah. But it was just such a reminder of the freshness of the ingredients. So I love the way they live. It was.
Where'd you go?
Amazing. Started in Rome, then went to Lucca, Pisa, Cinque Terre.
Come on, tell me that. Okay, I shit you not. Tell me Lucca is not the nicest place on the planet. My dad's province is Lucca. So he's Lucchese, right? So we went to Lucca last year, stayed a week. But my his town is about 30 minutes sort of to the northeast. Yeah.
Like I was amazed when you get off the grid of like the main tourist hub of finding these hidden gems. And like we took my father-in-law who'd never been outside of North America. They have Italian roots. This was his dream to go to Italy. Wow. And my wife, Lori, found these like off the grid places where I'm like, where are we driving here? Like, it looks like we're in a mountaintop on a dirt road. And then we end up in this like mini hotel resort that's been there for 400 years. Yeah. And the chefs are cooking you a meal from scratch. And I'm like, this is incredible. So Lucca was amazing. And I think, we try to pick up a couple of Italian words here and there. And our almost 5-year-old was like, buongiorno, grazie, arrivederci. Like, seeing it through his eyes too, man.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
It's a lovely city. It's really nice. I mean, so did you get to do the morning walk of the wall?
Yeah, amazed like that exists too. Yeah. I mean, such rich history, right? And I wonder what the Italians think when they come to North America or they come to Vancouver. They're like, beautiful city. Where's the history, right? Like, it's just night and day with what they have there.
Totally. I think when they come here, I think what they see is that, I mean, really, like our landscape is like. It's phenomenal. I mean, really, especially our city. Like, come to Vancouver, ocean, mountains. I mean, it's mind bending. But to your point, I mean, what's the oldest building we have in Vancouver?
Yeah, I don't even know what the oldest building is, but it's not old enough.
It's not that old. I mean, the oldest high rise has got to be the Marine Building. I mean, what's that? 30s? I mean, in the 30s, that's like new in Italy. I mean, that's what, man, you built that. You just built that. Yeah, about 100 years ago. That's brand new.
Yeah,
That's
it's totally
awesome.
different.
What a great trip. Good for you.
How's summer been for you both? You've been here? You've been traveling?
He just got back.
Yeah, I just got back. So I took my kids to Dublin, London, and Paris. And Paris, the same, right? As you get there, the kids were like, what are we eating? Because I've trained the kids now, so the kids know how to eat, right? And I said, don't worry about London. London, we're going to blow our brains out just running around trying to see everything. When we get to Paris, though, we'll slow down and we'll eat. And then they were like, no, come on, Dad. Like, there's, come on, London. I said, look, we're going to have fish and chips and we'll have like British breakfast and we're done, right? Like, there's kind of stuck. Like, there's some curry in between and that's it, right? Like, but then you get to France and it's like, oh my God, everything's just like unbelievable, right? So they were like, oh, okay, we get it. So, but same thing, right? We got there and it was like, everything's,
we lost him.
Yeah, he'll be back.
I know he'll be back for sure.
Yeah.
It is different though. Like, I mean, no matter what anybody says, and like you said, you don't appreciate. And it's not sometimes. I mean, I got to watch the wording, right? It's whether's better or worse. I personally think it tastes better, but that's because you're also on holidays. You're there, and they do have different. I mean, the water's different. The grasses are different.
Yeah.
We lost it. So we just kept talking because we were on food now, so it's pretty much over, right?
I lost it when. Come on, Dad. What are we eating when you're in Paris? And then,
yeah. So in London, it was like, what do we eat? I was like, relax. We're gonna eat a handful of things. And then
who cares?
We'll move on, right? But then we hit Paris, and then we're like, gotta eat there. Gotta like find this little cafe in Montmartre that's and they're like, just this cafe. Nope, just this cafe, right? And then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, like what is happening with the food? Why is it? Why can we have pounds and pounds of cheese and everything's okay, right? Like,
man.
But, yeah.
It's just different over there, right? I mean, I think to your point too, we were just saying when you hunt, when you're off, is that like I don't know if it's better or worse because it's a hard thing to say, but definitely it's different. Like the grasses are different, so the meats are different, the cheese is different, the milk is different, the water's different. Like it's just different. And to your point, this is how they cook. It's just different. They just love cooking. I think they love eating. They love the concept of food and the conversation of the food and it's just all of it.
Yeah. It's not rushed, right? It's not rushed. Like when you have like a tasting menu, I said to my wife, I'm like, I need to chill here because I'm like, when's the next course coming out? Like they're giving this some intermission time. No, this is culture. Like just slow down. You don't need to rush. We're always thinking, hey, we got to get our son to bed. And it's like, hey, time change. He can stay up late. We're good. And that kind of recalibration was valuable from a cultural standpoint too.
Yeah.
I think that's the part that I think why people should go. I think, they do a lot of things half-assed over there.
Yeah.
Like I'm Italian descent. A lot of things fast. They really do.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of things right. And so does Europe in general. Like the fact that you do take a little longer for lunch, your dinner's a little later. You go to a restaurant, where are you going in an hour? Relax. Sit down, take it easy. Have some bread. Let's talk
my
a little
kids
bit.
got cooled, right? Like we were in a little bistro, and they were like, "Dad, let's get it to go," right? And then the lady was like, "No, non importe, no," And then she said in broken English, she was like, "You sit, eat, then go, no rush," right? And the kids are like, what is happening? I was like, oh no, you just got told, right? Like this is how the French do it. So you don't screw around. Like they don't like this to go thing is like, just eat for it. You either need to eat or you don't need to eat. You don't need to eat and walk. It makes no sense, right? Like,
no, where are you going?
Like
what's the rush? Like, what are you going to see?
I think the thing that I love in France, I don't know about Italy because I haven't been there yet, but in France, they turn, if you're sitting at a street side cafe, they turn all the chairs so you face outwards. All you do is you sit and watch people. And like my daughters were like, what is the deal? And I go, it's just the way they do it because they want to see, right? Like this isn't about being on your phone. This isn't any of those things. This is like stop, chill, look at the street, look at people walking, like do the, sit and enjoy yourself, right? You talk to each other, but you're looking, right? Like, and that was really cool. I thought that was just
definitely
like
more of a French thing. The Italian thing is like they'll have you sitting with each other, but no, you don't move in an hour. Like just take a chill pill, just enjoy the dinner. Like just relax a minute. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. It's been there thousands of years. Another 10 minutes ain't gonna move.
Oh my God. Everything's like you also realize that too, right? Like this whole oldest building thing. Like, one of the kids was leaning on a building and she's like, what's the oldest thing? I'm like, I think the thing you're leaning on is from the 1600s. She was like, whoa. And I was like, oh no, relax. That's from the 1600s. That's from the, like, I think somebody was beheaded over there. Like it's all good. Don't worry about it. It's all fine,
So nice.
Different world, right? Different world, but great for the kids to see it too, right? Just for their perspective that there's different ways to live life.
How did you find Cinque Terre with the little one? Because it's a little bit of,
How old are you? How old is you?
Nico is almost 5.
Okay.
We were amazed that he was a sport. Like he was game to walk everywhere we went.
Okay,
so
good.
With that incline, we didn't need a stroller. We thought maybe we have to get one on the ground, but thankfully, he was up for it. And then he was very communicative. And when he just said, "Hey, I'm tired. Just give me some gelato. I want to chill." So. Yeah, we found a good balance. So he was game.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you're making a little.
He's going to be a strong communicator, no? Because he's your child.
Yeah. I know, right? He's communicating too much to the point. I'm like, God damn it! Where would you get this from? I'm like, oh,
we created a monster. Yeah, fruit don't fall too far.
He's like, Dad, well, in chapter 6, you say, he's like, no, stop reading the book. Read it later.
Hilarious. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, good for you. That's you guys, nice trips. Nice trips.
Yeah.
Nice trips.
Amazing. That's amazing. For the audience, because we kind of like rolled into this, we have Riaz on. Riaz, I don't know how to say your last name.
Meghji. Meghji. So like Meg is in mega, heart G, and then just G is in the letter. Meghji. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Riaz Meghji. You probably recognize his voice already. Riaz has been on breakfast television and MTV, CTV News, kind of like all over the place. And Kenny and I were pretty starstruck to have him on the first time. We had him on at Fast Thoughts, and then he was speaking at BC Food and Bev. And then we asked him to come back on, and so here we are. We thought, we wanted to keep talking to you.
I enjoyed your talk at BC Food and Bev, and I already wanted you to come back on anyway because I thought I think I like the way you look at things. I think it's just really cool, and I think it's really timely because we sort of got into it in our Fast Thought before the event that like COVID's kind of really COVID sort of did a number on all of us. In different ways, but communicating and probably the lack of interaction with people has been hard on, I think, a lot of people, which is probably why we're seeing so many issues in the city, specifically our city, but everywhere. I mean, it's not just us. So I really enjoyed the talk, and I told Phil, so we got to have him back on. Yeah, because I would love to see Martin. You've been smoking busy. Never mind just the trip to Italy. Like every time I'm on LinkedIn, I see you at another conference or another something. So. It's not just us they're buying into it. I think what you're saying and what you have to say is pretty important stuff that needs to be talked about. So
thank you.
The next little bit is you'll just tell us what you're thinking, what's going on. Him and I will ask a million questions and interrupt because we're just good at that.
Hey, I'm here for it. And, building on the point that you're sharing right now. And, one of the things that stood out to me from the BC Food and Bev event is not only is connection such an opportunity and priority for us all on a personal level, but looking at the entrepreneurs in the room and the visionaries of how they want to serve their communities with food and connect communities, connection just keeps you relevant. And the emails or the Slack channels will only do so much, and the willingness to show up at the grocery store, reconnect with the vendor, let them know what you're all about. Connection is so important on so many levels, not only to drive business, but just for our own well-being. And you're right, whether it's the food industry or hospitality industry or automotive industry, connection is such a universal need right now. And I think the universal commonality we all had was uncertainty over these past few years, and it disrupted us. And it was a great reminder that each and every day, how we show up, there's an opportunity to disrupt or be disrupted. And we have a choice with how we encounter that equation. And I think connection is a big part of it to stay on the good side of productive disruption so we can all evolve.
Yeah.
It's
it's
so crazy. I think that, like, I don't know. There's so many parts of this. I think the most obvious one, I think, is the struggle to, to find a balance now. Like we kind of opened a new channel of communication almost by being online the whole time. And then like you see it every day in the news with things like, do I really need to go back to work? Can I just stay home and be virtual all the time? Like that kind of balance, I guess we're humans, so we just don't understand how to balance anything.
I don't think we balance anything generally well.
Yeah,
it's what you're saying, like when you're saying about, you go to the grocery store, reconnect, or how you reconnect. I guess my personal bias and my worry is we're still too much, I think, to some degree on this medium, which for this, it works well because, it's hard to use in Mississauga. We're both here, but to connect 3 people in the same room to do this is probably difficult. So I think this medium is wonderful and a great way to do stuff like this. But if we're all 3 in the same city and 10 minutes apart, and this is our default, that's what part that sort of, I don't know, not bothers me, but kind of freaks me out a little bit. And I don't know. I think it's nice. I think you got to get back to handshaking, and I mean, not handshaking necessarily verbatim, but you got to get back to that. You got to get back to the connection.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be just this all the time.
It's become a culture of convenience. I mean, if we kind of look back to how our culture shifted, where convenience became the first choice and connection kind of became an afterthought until, of course, the pandemic hit. I mean, where did this all begin? And I think about the ATM machine. That was the starting point where you got your cash without talking to a teller. And then you start to see at the grocery store, you get self-checkout kiosks. You go, to the airport. You don't have to see anybody. You just print out your boarding pass and you go. And then look at the aggregators with DoorDash that served us during the pandemic, allowed restaurants to stay afloat. But we almost became so reliant on it. It became accessible. It became efficient. And, one of the things we talked about at BC Food and Bev is that if efficiency becomes the mandate or the priority, efficiency can become the enemy of human connection if we forget to empower each other with these face-to-face check-ins. And if we move too fast, these conversations are surface and we forget to see what's really going on with people. So you're right. If you're in the same city and you can make it work, absolutely go for it. It's like the power of having a meal together. Nothing will replace the intimacy of that, regardless of the technological advances that we have.
But then how do I guess, because you talk enough about this and you do this, I mean, because I think we're all, so how do you fix this though, without lack of a better way to say it? Because I think probably one thing you both noticed when you went to Europe, and it's holidays too, so you're viewing the world from different lens, right? But you're sitting down and you're sitting with the wife and the kids or whatever it is, and you're having longer talks, and neither of those countries is rushing you out of the restaurant either. In fact, they encourage you to sit for a minute because they don't do takeout and they don't do a lot of stuff like that as a regular thing, But how do we fix that here to where what Phil's saying? Everybody wants to stay home. Nobody wants to go back to offices. We're probably overusing the DoorDash and the self checkout and all that stuff. Like, is there, like, where do you see this? Like, where does this go? Like, what?
I have a conjoined question because I read the book, and one of the phrases that I found really interesting: a new choreography for connection. And one of the neatest things I thought about was even in Paris, so where honestly my French is laughable at best, right? But like an app like Uber, where like the other ones like DoorDash, Skip the Dishes, it minimizes human contact. I thought it was really interesting because Uber actually flips it the other way around. It removes the transaction from the conversation, and it allowed me to have conversations with whoever happened to be driving, and not worry about the commerciality of it, right? Like, because even here, when I get into Ubers, and we're the same language, I love it, right? Because I get a chance to ask them questions. Like honestly, some of the coolest conversations you have are with Uber drivers, right? Who seem to not mind talking all day. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna get a lot of hate mail from Uber folks now, but I just thought it was interesting, right? Like I wonder. I guess my question is on top of Kenny's is that part of this is like how do we figure out how you mesh technology and like real life stuff now?
I think there's a lot to unpack with the idea of where do we go from here and how do we use the tools that are in front of us. Some of the conversations that I have with communities, leaders, organizations, especially like with the younger generation, where if we talk about the challenge of where we've kind of evolved to, especially with the challenge of loneliness that I've tackled in this in the whole message of human connection, the first instinct would go towards the senior demographic, that they're lonely because they don't have the touch points that you might have when you're younger, you're more mobile. But it's the younger generation. Cigna, the health research firm, found the younger generation, the 18, 19-year-olds, those are the ones that are struggling the most because they're in this race to try and keep up. You get caught in the comparison trap. You got to understand and decide, what am I going to do for a living? Where am I going to live when you look at the cost of housing prices? Who am I going to meet as a partner? And when you have these tools and there's the practice and performance of perfectionism, it can be so easy to fall into the trap of I'm not enough here. And then you retreat from the genuine intention of showing up. So to answer your question, Kenny, it's looking at, well, how can you show up and be a role model for what connection could look like in your life? Think about the idea of gratitude. And I don't know who said this, but gratitude doesn't have an expiry date. If somebody did something for you that you forgot the idea or maybe overlooked at the idea of recognizing them, surprise them on a day. Call them out of the blue. And, the younger generation will be like, why are you calling me? Text me, right? Understanding how people like to communicate, but surprise and delight them.
Right.
And put the invitation out. I mean, anybody watching or listening to this might be thinking, hey, extroverts and introverts are very different. I think the first question we need to ask is, what are you all about? How do you like to communicate? And how can I meet you where you're at? First and foremost, because my intention might be pure to connect with somebody, but it's not their jam. But if I'm going first with role modeling that, one, I care about you, two, I want to see you, three, I'm surprising you and letting you know I'm thinking about you, over time, if somebody is more reserved, they like staying at home, they like the convenience of technology, they will appreciate, whether you are introvert or extrovert, the one thing we all have in common is the need for a sense of belonging. So if you can be the role model for what connection could look like for somebody, you could inspire or evoke this positive emotion where they'll feel motivated to say, I want to hang out with Kenny and Phil. Like when you guys put the invite back to come on your podcast, I'm like, I like what you're all about. I'm like, yeah, time is precious, but I appreciate the space you're creating. I want to be a part of this. And you made the invite to make that happen. So I think there's an opportunity to ask ourselves, what kind of social circle do you feel you need? And then look around and see what other people need, how they communicate, and meet them there to start building these beautiful and reconnecting these beautiful relationships we can have.
I like that. Yeah. I guess it's like everything, though. It's the effort that you have to put into and the effort we need to put into these things, right? And it's actually just doing it, right? Because the last thing you also want to do is you want to just listen to, the three of us chitter chatter, and mostly you're helping us understand it better. But yeah. And then we go away and we do same. We've got to really take the time to do that. And it's not hard, to your point. It's not hard to reach out to somebody that did something nice to you, let's say even 2 years ago. It doesn't matter how long. And just remember that time. I just thinking about it the other day. I really appreciated that. It was, you made a difference or whatever it is. And the conversations you can spark from there, I guess, or the connections you can make from there.
Somebody's got to go first. And if you are the person that does, right? Chances are, if the intention is pure, people will follow your lead. And
I think for the most part, it's either that. If you're authentic and true about it, why wouldn't you follow it? I think most people would be thinking, "Wow, he remembered that. That's pretty cool."
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Are you getting, so as you're out and speaking, is this kind of amongst the things you're getting asked about? the most? Like, what other things are folks kind of worried about along the way?
You know, one of the most common themes that pops up are people that are concerned about the next generation. And this message of connection for those that grew up without the technological convenience of connection, they know the value of face-to-face. You know, like 10 years, you know, the pager was a big deal for the technological advancement. And now you look at this generation, they're like, what is that? What is a Walkman? Like, the people that say to me, how do I reconnect with my kids, my grandchildren? How do I encourage them to see the value in what we're talking about right here? And I think it all starts, the conversation and suggestion I always offer is the power of writing and the power of reflection to transform any experience you have into expertise or insight. You know, it's funny. We started doing this with our son Nico, who's almost 5, and we have a journal for him. And I encourage the idea of journaling. You know, some of the science, neuroscience we talk about in the book is the simple act of writing 3 things that you're grateful for every single day for 21 days straight can make your mind and brain more optimistic for up to 6 months. This does not take a lot of work, but encouraging the younger generation to journal on the regular, to flex the muscle of writing and articulating what the day meant to them, what the experience meant to them. Because on social, it's so quick. And the communication, when we talk about new choreography of connection, we rely on emojis. We're not even using words, or we're using quick videos or photos to do the talking. But getting back to the written word and flexing that muscle, I think is so important, because if you are a good writer, that is the foundation of all communication. You can be more concise, you can be more effective, you can be more influential, but you can be more authentic when you're removing the risk of judgment, when you're just writing for yourself of, hey, what did this mean? And then when you have trust, share it with a loved one. Right. Or if you are feeling courageous, put it out there on social media and ask a question so you spark a conversation instead of just, you know, blasting from a megaphone of, hey, this is what the world is. So yeah, a lot of the conversations of how to engage the younger generation, and I champion the idea of writing and journaling as a daily practice.
So to be the cynic, I mean, do the kids even know what a pen is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great
Seriously,
point.
Right? I mean, they know this, but do they actually understand?
So anyone who is between, call it 10 to 20, they actually don't know they know how to print, but script writing, what they would call script writing, what we would call normal penmanship, they don't do. Like, so my 21-year-old can write. He can write script or whatever you want to call it now, right? Yeah. But the 15 and the 17-year-old, they don't actually know, like, you know, the squiggly for an F, they don't know what that is. They don't know how to do that. They don't know how to do the R, you know, with the 2 humps in it, and then how to connect. They print, because that has been out of their skill set. You know, it's been out of the school system for like 10 years already. Like, they're talking about reintroducing it. So by the time Nico gets into school, they should have it back. But you're also talking about an entire generation of teachers who may or may not have been handwriting this whole time.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you talk about the concept of journaling. Yeah. Maybe in our minds of the older generation, when I think journaling, I'm thinking pen, paper, I'm writing. If the next generation, they're used to devices, you can still journal by typing the prompts in to, there's a lot of great apps out there too, right? So using the tools that they have, but flexing the muscle of writing and reflection. And this could be done through handwriting, it could be done through typing, or whatever device you use, but just getting in the daily practice of reflection, I think is the important essence of the idea.
It's sort of the critical part. I think the reason, because we're probably, the 3 of us are a little bit older than the 10 or 20-year-old, just a few years older, is that a lot of the reason, like, even when I learned, even through university, listening and writing, physically writing, was how I remembered. And it was a vast majority of the people that I hung with, that's how we all sort of learned. And it was because you had to listen, then you had to transform that listening into script. And I'm sorry, Phil, I'm like your kids. I can only print. I know how to write, but I'm not comfortable writing. I'm much more comfortable printing in uppercase. But it's still the act
I almost
of.
thought you were just yelling at me.
No,
I didn't realize that you're an uppercase guy.
It's handwritten.
So
I'm
all
always
this
yelling.
time I've been feeling kind of hurt because everything's
You
in
got to get over
capital.
this one. All you had to do is ask me. I would have told you I love you. I don't know how to write small letters. I can't do lowercase.
Wait, so how do I tell when you're yelling at me then if it's always uppercase?
I'm Italian. I think we're always yelling. What's the difference? Why are you worry about it now? 6 years after this podcast,
it's true.
Worry about this now.
I know.
Move on. Yeah. But I do think there's that aspect. So to your point, if journaling means typing, I guess what I'm trying to do is I think there's some point they got to get back to a little older school. It may be typing, but typing, not typing. Like sometimes I think it's because I think sometimes the devices it's just my opinion, seem to take over where you got to get back to what it's all about. I do think that writing things down and taking the time to do that is a better way to remember, better way to reflect. A gratitude is much nicer if you handwrite it, if you can, or typing, because you have to think and you have to go through that process as opposed to sending a smiley face or, a pound or whatever was like a one button hit, like a little effort, I guess maybe is what it is that sort of in my head.
The other thing I've seen is I've seen a lot of teenagers switch over to voice. So they're sending each other voice messages, which I think is super odd, but I love it. Right. Like
voice is like the phone.
We're recording a podcast, but I love it. Right. Because you catch inflections. Right. So I think I get that out of your journal thing too, is there needs to be an introspective moment and then, some thinking about, the message that you want to either leave yourself or either leave other people as well. Right. So it's kind of cool. Like it's journaling. So every day you think?
I'm a fan of it, right? I mean, you got to figure out what works best for you. What's something that you could sustain over time? Some people will be like, every day it's not my thing. Well, what if you did it once a week? What if you did it twice a week and see how it serves you, how the feeling is different? And I mean, you brought up a beautiful example. I'm a huge fan of voice notes. Sometimes I'll send people video messages just on their phone to surprise them. I think it is magic, Kenny, to your point, of getting something in the mail, like a handwritten card that goes back to the old school days of what the written word meant on paper. There's so many different expressions, and I think understanding your person on the other side, your audience on the other side of like what they appreciate the most. And some people really love the voice notes. Some people love the video, or they love the personal touch of handwriting. So there's no one size fits all with connection. So I think it's, when we were talking at the beginning of this conversation about travel this summer and what we observed in Europe, observation is the powerful word. When you say in Paris, they're flipping around the chairs, so you just watch what people are doing. And we're getting back to the power of just being mindful and observing what people look like, how they're carrying themselves, how they're dressing. So I think the power of this is what great comedians do. They're amazing observationalists where they are. Yeah. What does a comedian do? He or she tells the truth. They tell the truth in creative ways where you're like, that's so true. Yeah. But they're just so dialed in, and they're journaling every single. Some of the great comedians, I'm like, what do you do? And they're like, get new material. And they're like, as soon as I see something where I'm like, why is this happening? This happens so much. Boom. They'll open up their phone. They'll open up notes. They'll write it down. Bam. Write it down. It's a form of journaling, right? But it's just the power of observation and reflection on a daily basis.
Maybe that's what it is too. It's a slow down aspect of it. I think that you guys came from Europe. Like we were there last year. We're going to go back next year, probably going to, because for soccer, right? We'll go watch the Euros. But I think it's a society. Europe in general does have that ability, these things, to slow down and try to reflect just for a minute. Like just take a breath of air, right? And just and take a moment to breathe, check it out, see what's going on. Yeah, I like it.
Awesome.
You gotta do better at it. That's all.
I want to switch gears for a minute. I want to ask you about you and this journey that you're on. I think because most of us know you from TV, and then you kind of embarked on something a little bit different. I think I'm asking because I'm genuinely curious. I'm wondering what you see your path is and where you're going, and then two is, I think we in the CPG industry, you get a lot of folks who it might not be that different from broadcast. I don't really know the broadcast world, but there's a path generally that retail folks go through. If you Kenny grew up at a retailer, so he grew up at London Drugs, right? So he went through a series of pathways, and big companies are very good at, this is the next place you want to go. This is the next skill you need to learn. Procter Gamble or Johnson and Johnson on the other side of that, we all go through paths. And so where we are, we get a lot of people who are now going, I'm done the path, right? Like wherever I am in the path, wherever I am in the journey, I'm done. I want to know what's next. And we get that question a lot, and we're kind of not anywhere near where you are, but kind of breaking paths and kind of going out on your own is a thing. So I'm curious about that too, is, because you've done a lot of TV, you've done a lot of broadcast, and now you're book writing and speaking. So I'm so curious about what led you there, and then where do you see yourself?
Where does it go?
Yeah.
And we'll be right back.
All right. This episode is brought to you by CHFA. Thank you to our sponsors, the Canadian Health Food Association. There's a show coming up, CHFA Now. It's going to be in Toronto. It'll be Thursday, September 21st. And then
Through Sunday the 24th.
Through Sunday the 24th. And this show, like, it used to be just, like it was never just a trade show, but lots of people came to walk the show and just see new brands. But the show has just taken on a whole life of its own. Kenny and I were just looking at the number of things, right, that you can and should do at the show. There's stuff going from Thursday the 21st all the way through to Sunday. There's some really big things. The regulatory group is going to go through all the NHP stuff that you've been hearing about: cost recovery, compliance verification, labeling updates, plastic sustainability stuff, all of that stuff. They're going to be going through on the Thursday.
That one, Phil, though, that's for CHFA members and associates only. But
correct.
It also it's probably another reason why you should really consider becoming a CHFA member anyway.
If there's ever a year that you wanted to do it, this is probably the year, because of all these things and the amount of coverage that CHFA has had on this stuff. But then on the Friday too, right? There's Canada, US organic equivalency. There's Think Like a Futurist, so how to turn trends into tangible results, which is super cool. There's gene editing for genetic modification, in case you're worried about that. If you want to think about collagen, there's a session on collagen. There's gut health, and the role that the gut plays in immune and mental health. Gosh, there's so many things.
There's tons of stuff. I guess what it is, see, to me, if I look at it from what I was when I was a buyer,
yeah,
when I used to do this show, it really was focusing on the Saturday, Sunday, and it was really about doing this show, right? When I left buying and started going into the other side, which was all sides, it really became much more important to actually know what was going on the like, for example, on this one, on the Thursday, Friday, because the amount of quality lecture you get these days is unbelievable. The show is always going to be the show, and it's always the fun part. And you should be going to CHFA regardless, just because the networking, the fact they'd advocate, the fact that there's just so much cool stuff always happening. But if you really want to take full advantage of the show, you really need to participate. Thursday would be good this year because what the topic is, which is talking all about regulatory, which is just a nightmare this year. And if you really can get up to date on that, get it. But the beauty now is the Friday is packed.
Yeah, there's
so many things to learn and so many things to see. Like, I just think the old days, if you're still of the mindset that the show is just the trade show, you've really got to get off that one. There is so much more to that's there. Even at the end of the day, you got CHFA Trends, which last year was Lindsay and
Really
Aaron
big.
talking about some
Yeah.
research they did and all
Yeah.
the things they're learning. And then Launchpad follows that, which is really cool. So if you're a small brand and you're not part of Launchpad, you'll see maybe what buyers or what you'll typically get asked that were graded on when you're presenting. And then the social mixer for the member mixer for the social aspect of the evening.
There's
So if you're a member and associate, you get to hang out together, and it's a great way to catch up with people.
There's also Incubator Alley, which is where you get to see all the new brands as well. And so that's a really big thing. I know for retailers, that's a really hot part, but I think for everybody to see what new up and coming brands are, what the new ideas
if you
are.
Want to stay atop the natural health industry in Canada, you got to do the two. You got to do this one and you got to do the other. Really and truly, I would really recommend for people to go through. You should really consider becoming members of the CHFA anyway. Like you really should. You really need to be part of these communities that are out there defending and sticking up for your businesses, because I'll tell you right now, it doesn't look like government's doing a lot to help us. So get on board.
Make sure. So September 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, CHFA weekend.
Yep.
It's here in Toronto. Make sure you sign up. So the link will be in the show notes below.
And we'll see you at the show.
CHFAnow.ca. Make sure you go and sign up. Become a member, sign up for the show. Really important to do.
And find us there. We'll see you at the show.
Yeah, we'll definitely see you at the show. And now back to the episode.
I think this is such a valuable thought for anyone to think about. And the first question that comes to my mind is, what makes you come alive? And for years, it was the rush of television, the unpredictability of the moment. And then when you're live, I mean, you talk about the vulnerability and like technology, as we all know in the virtual world, you plan it to a T, technology is going to tell you what's going to happen, and then you got to roll with it. But something happened. Maybe it was the birth of our son, Nico, where I was touching 40 and the fire was gone. And Lori, my wife would say to me, like, I'm tired of hearing you complain that something's missing. And then I asked myself, I'm like, is this a disservice for me to be showing up on camera doing this because the fire is gone? And then it's that real reflection of, well, why did I do it in the first place? And I genuinely loved the beginner's mind, that someone's going to come in as an interviewer after 20 years of interviewing people. Someone's going to come in and introduce something to me that I didn't look at life that way, but I'm grateful for it. I'm going to use it and continue to evolve. And there's a sentiment that the book is based around, is that we are all one conversation away from living a completely different life. And I think the conversations with my wife really allowed me to believe, like, how do I want to serve now? And I asked myself, do I want to wake up at 50 saying, man, I should have pivoted at 40?
Right.
So transitioning out of television, my wife was saying to me, well, you might not ever work in television again. And I said, well, is that a bad thing? Because television was so rich with experience and exposure and just learning, and I loved it for what it was worth. But when I realized it was time to change, my curiosity was really piqued with, how could I create a more transformative experience in a longer format? Like, no matter how much my intention was pure to make an interview on live television as dynamic, as impactful as it could be, it was truncated. You'd only have 5 to 7 minutes. Right. Yeah. Think about like doing a podcast in 5 to 7 minutes. There's only so much you're going to be able to cover. So I started asking myself about this format and understanding the industry that existed. And my wife laughs to this day. She's like, this is a business? Like, people pay you to talk? What? And I'm like, thanks for your support, sweetheart. I know that's exactly. You love me, right?
But you don't want to listen to me doesn't mean other people don't want to listen to me.
I'm going to go out and find my tribe. Yeah. But she's been extremely supportive. But outside looking in, I didn't fully understand like what this industry was or how it worked, because I would just MC on the side. But the more I would watch and study keynote speakers, and to this day, I love studying another speaker on stage. I love studying a comedian that has a relevant commentary and how they brought joy to the audience, how they brought, a perspective to the audience. So transitioning out of TV was just, instead of like when you work in news, the content or program becomes transactional because it's just an exchange of information. When you work in speaking, the goal is, and the goal was with this book and this message, to create a transformational experience for the audience where they could maybe say, I didn't look at it this way, and I'm moved by what's been shared. And if the message is connection, one of the values I champion, that the price of connection is vulnerability. And if I'm able to get vulnerable on the stage, that in front of a group of strangers, where they'll be like, oh, wow, like that, that's a lot of courage to do that in front of people you don't know. But then I'm inspired to think, how could I show up in authentic and vulnerable ways and achieve connection in my life? So I've genuinely loved doing this work and believe that there's always two teachers in the room. I come in with an intention to serve, but the audience always serves me right back with the questions and perspectives that they give me of how this touched them or what they want more of, so I can continue to evolve the message of connection and hopefully help people build relationships that make their life more meaningful.
Well, I'll tell you what, because I've been in the audience and I sat at tables with other people, and you connect maybe even more than what you think you connect. I think people really appreciated the vulnerability, and telling the story of your mom with Rick Hansen, and some of that's in the book as well. But those type of things, how the things you've gone through and how you've had to move or pivot, things like that. Because I think a lot of times people, it's like everything. I think people are lonely in general because it's only happening to me is always a common theme, and typically that's because I don't know what anybody else is doing. I don't get a true story if I talk to some people. Like, I know if I talk to the two of you, I can be as honest as I want to be, and I'm going to get some cool feedback from you as well. And it makes it a lot cooler. I've watched people come up to you after the event and ask a lot of, I know they connected with you, and I know they were thinking, that's me too. I could do that, or I've seen that, or whatever it is. And I know if you were even asking, hey, how do I get your time? How do I learn how to do this better myself? And I know we're going to segue into something that I hope you're going to talk about or thinking of doing in the next coming months, maybe starting some cool things up to help more people understand how to do this better. That's up to you now to take that hit or not.
Yeah, thank you. It was freezing on me for a second, so I was like, "Oh no, did I lose you?" I think I know the direction you were going. Yeah, one of the asks that comes out is, look, you go to any event and you'll have a feeling walking out. I mean, the goal is to be motivated and inspired, sure, but how do you sustain that over time? And one of the things I've been working on developing, and this is based on the vision, was the book. Deliver. An impactful keynote, and then follow up with a consistent coaching program on connection, on presenting, on storytelling. Because these moments, when you talk about the loneliness piece, I remember a friend of mine from the industry, Tracy Moore, who hosts the show Cityline, who got very real in a conversation I had with her about her postpartum. She was like, don't suffer in silence because the shame will put you in a hole. And that always stuck with me as a lesson she shared after she got real with her own journey, and creating a program that will be coming out probably early 2024 at this point, because the keynote speaking momentum has built more than I thought it would actually build this year, which is great because it shows people need connection, but focusing on creating a community where people have the tools where they can connect, they can build relationships. If they're given the opportunity to take a stage and share a bit of their journey or story, that they can do it in meaningful, authentic, and impactful ways. And I'm excited to do it because every time out, I get feedback from the audience of what they want most. And that helps me curate content that'll ultimately serve them in the end. So for now, I'm driving a lot of content on social media to serve the audience, and it's driven by connection, but soon there'll be a community-based program where people can be a part of something where they're learning and social sharing. I think that gets overlooked. You go to conferences, it's a lot of the speakers on stage. When I have permission to have more space, I do workshops with organizations where you give them a keynote, but then focus on addition by subtraction. Less about what the speaker's saying, more about permission with prompts, and hold a group conversation at your table so people can actually share. And I tell you, the reflections that come out of that, where Phil, you can be saying to Kenny, like, wow, man, Kenny, I've worked with you for years. I thought I knew you, but I never knew that about you. And when you can ignite that sense of discovery, instead of focusing on, hey, the fastest way to connection is familiarity, it's how do you take it deeper? Not just igniting the familiarity, but igniting on a sense of a shared journey. And that's what the community-based program will do. So to be continued on that. So thanks, Kenny, for throwing that out there.
I know people were asking for it. I know. I'm telling you, I sat with people. I wish I could have more time with them. And at that point, I didn't know you were talking about potentially doing this community play. Is that because again, I think people, I mean, you tapped into it, so you know that it's there. Like there is a big need for this. Like I'm so happy you're out of television because then we went to got this side of you. And we wouldn't have had the chance to talk to her, chances even I'd see you talk. I told Phil, we walk out of this conversation, there's a room full, there's like 400 people, probably that event, something like that. And you were telling a few of the stories and not a sound. And this industry is not quiet.
No.
I don't know about your industries, but the food industry is not a quiet industry.
No,
everybody has something to say 24/7. And the room was stilled because I think people were reflecting and thinking, wow, this is important. This is stuff that we need to talk about. So my 2 cents is I do. I thank you. I'm happy that you got the hell out of television and you're doing this because I think this is really, really helpful. Really helpful.
That's, that's very kind and that's a gift. And first and foremost, thank you for saying that. And two, I come back to the word of gratitude. TV served me well for 2 decades of my life. I mean, it's a huge part of my journey, but I'm so grateful to be on this new journey. And that sense of doing this work, I say to my wife time and time again, I can't believe I get to do this. And she's like, you know what? I didn't hear you say that towards the end of your TV career. And she's like, I've seen this new person, this new identity emerge from this work.
All recharged, ready to go.
It's a
Light
gift.
it up. Yeah. It's pretty cool, man. It's pretty cool to be sitting there, talking to 300-400 people or even less, and people really want to listen to it, and they're engaged, and you make a difference. Like you go home, that's got to be a good feeling to go home to and think, shit, they're pretty good today.
Well, what's amazing in the moment when I get the chance to be at events post keynote is I literally don't have to say anything. I genuinely just look forward to what people are willing to share, right? And hearing if they were moved by the message, and knowing that anyone can go out with the pure intent to share a message and share information. But I always ask, did this change you? Did this change something you're going to do differently in your life? And sometimes there might be a hint of that day of, but when somebody reaches out and emails 3-4 months down the line that maybe I didn't even talk to you on the day of, but says, hey, I was in this audience, I heard this, and here's what I did with it, and here's how my life got better. There is no greater reward where I could say, I think it was Picasso's line of, what's the meaning of life? Find your gift. What's the purpose? You give it away. And I feel like I get to live my purpose and share that day in and day out. And I'm so grateful for it.
We love it. We don't get, whenever we get emails from people going, we love the podcast or we listen and, we think you guys are great or whatever. It makes us smile for days and days and days and days. Right. Cause you just read cause there are moments you go, am I talking? And is it just the two of us? Like, and at least in our case, there's 2 of us, right? So at least we're talking to each other, right? But there are moments you kind of go, is anyone listening? Like, does anyone care, right? So when you get those calls, it's right. It's pretty amazing.
Or can we help you? Or have we helped you even just a little bit? And I do, and I think that's why I think it's impressive what you're doing. I think it's just good. I really do. I think it's just pretty cool.
Well, you know what? I'll throw a question out to you both. And for the audience listening along, this is a question you could use as a connection piece is, what's a compliment through this podcast? What's a compliment somebody gave each of you that you still think about?
Yeah, that's cool. Okay. Yeah,
I gotta think about it.
No, you know what? The one that sticks with me, and we got a couple of them that were really similar, but I think the one to me, there's one common one that I love, and there's one that I know both of us really it stuck in our side a little. So there's a negative one. I think that has made us much better, and then there's so the positive one is we've gotten quite a few that are similar that said, you know what, like during the pandemic, there was no contact, right? So I was listening to you guys every week and you guys got me through weeks, right? And to us, that was like, that is not what we intended to do. We wanted to make sure that we had voices out there, that we were talking, but we never for a moment did we think we were carrying anybody through a pandemic or anything. Do you know, like there was never that moment that went, oh, like we're saving people. None of that, right? We just thought we'll try and keep, kind of wonderful moments for people. So that was really touching. And I think the one that really pissed us off but made us better was, or actually somebody wrote a review for us that said, you interviewed these two bright women in the industry. We still work in an industry where it's quite male dominated. And they said, but when you guys call them girls a few times, I wanted turning you guys off because I thought for sure that, these two, and we went, oh my gosh, like we've never seen ourselves as those guys. We love looking at talent regardless of gender, and we want this industry to be better. And I think that made us just mad enough to kind of make sure that we never, ever. But I think it's anyway.
We try. I think what it forces us to do, try to be better, because it's unfortunate what people have to understand about different people. What someone at 80 says is a reflection of the time they grew in. And what was okay to say then may not be okay now, and that's fine. But every generation has a lot of those, and sometimes you got to give us 10 or 15 minutes to catch up. I can't change 57 years worth of ideology or the way I speak because it has changed overnight, or in my eyes as an overnight. You got to give me a minute just to catch there. I'm not out there to offend anybody, so I'll catch up. But I might be on the slower side. Like, you need just half a shake, and I'll get. But
I think my takeaways from those, I appreciated both comments.
I love the fact
one
that
burned up a lot of energy because I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Wait, I've got a review now. Like, am I that guy? Like, I always thought I wasn't that guy, right? But then it really did. Like, both of those made
4 years ago this happened. Riaz, 4 years ago, and it still eats us.
No, right there.
Negative way. He's always trying to think, okay, please, okay, I got to watch. I got to think this through. And there's a reason why I have to think this, because I don't want to offend anybody. I mean, if I offend somebody because they don't like what I have to say, that's life. But I don't want to purposely or inadvertently say.
I don't want to marginalize. It's not our. It's not our MO to marginalize.
See, to me, the one I love the most, the comments that we get. This is the comment that I frequently get from a lot of people that I always love and makes me feel good, is that when we meet someone live, they'll say, "Oh my God, you guys sound exactly like you're on the podcast." And I tell them, well, it's because it's the same people. The podcast is us just as much as we are the podcast. I mean, there's no difference. The way we talk to you, even though you're, the rock star status that you are, like, the minions of us, is we're still consistent with you as if you're my friend that I grew up with in trail, or if it's Phil. I don't care who you are. I mean, we should be just respectful. And I like the fact that people have said that they feel like they actually know us. We've had so many people say that. I feel like we know you. And I think, well, that's nice. That means I think that we're talking in a way or in a manner that's resonating, hopefully helping people, hopefully. And that's what I found with you. I felt like I knew you. I felt like you were a buddy that I grew up with.
Yeah, that's I appreciate the comments, Kenny, and I appreciate like the realness and transparency of where feedback has landed for you both. Because let's be honest, anything you put into the public eye will never have 100% approval.
Yeah,
and the opportunity of hearing comments. I mean, I would hear these comments over the years too of people that didn't see the intention of what you were trying to do, but it's also an opportunity of, if somebody's willing to give you that feedback, it shows they care. They want to see it better. And then the question is it malicious, or are they trying to call you up and not just call you out? And I think in this day and age of even the term girls, like how many times are you in meetings and people say, hey guys, as like a natural habit? It's still, you see on YouTube, hey guys, and it's just simple language. But I think it's a really important point that a listener could bring up and just say, you know what? It didn't sit with me. I just want you to know. And then it's a gift to say, hey, here's how we can be more inclusive of who's here with us, who here wants to see us all succeed together. So that's powerful that you're even willing to share that, in this space.
Yeah. I mean,
do better, buddy. Gotta try to do better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that about your book. I think is how I'll end this is I love that about your book, because I think all of it made me think, how do I do better? Right. Like, even when you dial in, I was telling Kenny on our way home, we are unused to all sorts of things about being out there. Because neither of us, we've been known in the industry for a long time, but we're out there now. And I was telling him, after the last conference, I was coming home and I was ordering food. It was taking a long time. So I was like waiting. And I was starting to get irritated. And then somebody just popped over and went, listen, so this thing about your son. And I was like, who the hell are you? How do you know about my son? And then it was like, of course, because it was on the podcast, you dummy, right? Like, but I was like, oh my God, right? Like they're all these
weird.
Yeah. But
weird.
then like really appreciative of like, just again, right? Like grateful.
The fact that someone's actually listening, it means that we're helping them. And it's probably similar to what you go through. Yeah. Like, if I bought and read the book, and then I go listen to you, and it's very similar, if not exactly the same. I can almost, if I read the book now, I hear you. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a consistent theme. You talk the same now as you talk the same on stage, as you talk the same on television. Like, it's just the realness, I think, that people need. And maybe that's the other thing too, is be real, right?
That's it. And knowing that you being real won't be accepted by 100% of your audience. And that is okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay too, right? As long as we don't go to try to offend anybody or hurt anybody's feelings or whatever they're about.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to make everybody happy. I still don't make my mom happy. We try, but it's always work either.
Still time.
There's always time on your side, right? Where you hope. Anyway.
Hey, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for coming back. Like, seriously, thanks for doing this with us. Yeah. I really appreciate it. I really do. It's very nice of you to spend the time with us.
It's my pleasure. I mean, kudos for putting this out there. And the one thing that's going to stick with me from this chat is what you shared during COVID times, when you think, is anybody listening to this? This is more valuable than you think. So it's
that was very humbling.
It's appreciated to have this invite to be with you and share the space. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy.
When you are ready to launch your next initiative, will you ping us? You definitely have bigger channels to promote on, but we'd love to do a quick fast thought or something so we
can help you out or help people out to get to you, because I think you can make a difference in people. So I'd like to see if we can help on that too.
Yeah, we'd love it. Oh
man, thank you. Yeah, I'd say for now, RiazMeghji.com has everything on there, but when it comes time for a full launch, which will probably be January 2024, I'd love to reconnect. I appreciate the support.
Definitely a lot of people in our industry could use it and would love to listen to it. I think it'd be a big help.
Yeah.
Big help.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay.
Buddy, thanks for doing this for us.
Thanks. Okay.
Take care.
Stick around. You can go enjoy the afternoon. I think we might have blue sky out there, maybe.
Fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Exactly. Take care, man.
Take care.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man.
Bye.
He's a nice guy.
Such a nice
guy, right? He's just like he's just like a good shit, right? Just a really nice guy.
Yeah, I think it's like just having intention. It sounds like
you don't have to hide,
right? So
yeah. Oxa's going to be on the podcast.
Oxa, get in here.
I just want a coffee.
She wants a coffee. Oh, shit, now you're on the podcast. See? Oh, there's Oxa leaving.
Hi, Oxa.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening to the podcast.
Thanks, everybody.